This is the third tutorial for Muse, Widgets and Interactivity. In this tutorial, we'll go over widgets, buttons, links, and some other things. From last time, it added a couple things. It added some text here and added some text under each of these sections, so that fleshed out that a little bit more. What I'd like to do is add that little slideshow element now. Let's go to our widgets library and our palettes on the right hand side, and here you'll see a bunch of different widgets. I don't have time to go through all these in detail, so what I would suggest that you just kind of play around with a bunch of these. Try them, see what they do, see what they don't do. So for this slideshow, we're going to add just a basic slideshow. When you drag it in, it's like all other widgets. It's pretty basic to start out. So when you click it once, it allows you to sort of scale and change the size of the slideshow. So I'm going to put it within my grid system, right? We're always putting everything within the grid system. And then these elements, I don't need the text, so I can actually delete that. And then I can click these little arrows and move these to where I want them. And move that. So that's centered right. And I don't really care about the number either, so I'm going to just delete that. Okay. Now this, I can actually change the opacity, so I don't want those to completely opaque, and that looks a lot better. Let's go to preview. Muse by default kind of gives you these sort of generic, Arizona, whatever, cactus images. You can set your own. So let's do that now by selecting the slideshow and clicking the blue button in the upper right hand corner. And up here you've got a bunch of options, from autoplay, play once, shuffle. I'm not going to go through all these again. The main one we want to look at here is add images. And you'll want to select your images from your images folder. I've actually created a separate slideshow folder. And in that folder I've got 3 images. Right? Now the problem with these images is that they're not all horizontal. So in Photoshop, you'll need to rotate them. I've rotated this one. You need to rotate this one counterclockwise, and then I'll need to crop this one down. If you try to put a very vertical image like this, it will probably crop it itself, and it may not be the best cropping that you prefer. So I suggest you kind of at least pre-crop it a little bit. You'll also need to make sure the resolution is right. The slideshow needs to be 900 pixels wide, right? Because that's the size of my site. And this image is only 750. So you can always set that by going to image, image size, and change this to 900. Now, if your image is too small, it's not going to work well to size it up like this, but this seems to work okay. It's not ideal. You prefer to start with a high res and shrink it down rather than have a low res and push it up, but for now this will work. I'm also going to crop this one down roughly, and I'll make sure this image size is also 900. Save, close. And then I'll make sure this image size is also 900, and save and close that image. So 3 JPEGs. Now when I go to my folder for Muse, I can select all 3 of these images, and I can go ahead and preview. Sure enough, all those images work. Now you can see you can adjust the cropping in the actual Photoshop images if you'd like to adjust that. Okay. One other thing you'll notice that one of the problem we're having is that now this slideshow is on top of everything. To remedy that problem, you'll need to go back to your master page and make sure these 2 elements, the ice hot logo and the menu, are in a separate layer, and that layer should also be on top. So what I'm going to do is take this menu, drag that to layer 1, take this logo, drag that to layer 1, and then make sure layer 1 is on top. Okay. So now when I go to my pages, that logo will kind of sit on top of everything, right? You can see how that's sitting on top. And you can also see how that is the transparent element. I'm not sure how well it works, and I may not keep that. It works great on this image, but on some other things it may not work so well. Okay, let's go back home. And let's talk a little bit about interactivity now. Let's go back to our master page. We want to make our logo go back to the home page. And right now it's just a basic image element. So you can add interactivity by adding a link, or what we call hyperlink. So if you go to your hyperlinks, it shows your existing links within your site, your internal links. You can also link to a file if you'd like. So if you had a PDF or an image or some other file you wanted to embed on your site, you could do that as well. Enable as an asset. Or you can actually just type in your link. And if you're going to type in your link as an external link, right, like Apple or some other site that goes outside to another link, you'll need to use the protocol HTTP:// whatever you want. So I'll have this link to my photography site for now, jonathan.gibsonphotography.com. And there you go. So let's preview it again. Do a lot of previewing. This could just go home. And now when I roll over this image, sure enough, it's a link. And if I click it, it should successfully take me to that other page. So that's pretty cool. So that's basic interactivity. Right, so you've got internal links, which is on your desktop links, these home contact gallery. You can link to a file, or you can create an external link. The next thing I want to show you is how to create images as buttons, and we just did that, but I want to create a more complex kind of rollover image. So I'm going to roughly put in a frame here. The trick with this is you don't want to just place an image by Command D. You want to actually add just a blank frame. I'll show you why in a second. So I'm just going to add a blank frame. And then within this frame, instead of clicking a fill color, I'm actually going to click the fill lettering. So when you click the fill lettering, it allows you to change a couple things. You can either change the color here, or you can actually add an image. So I'm going to add an image here for this image called Scoop 1. And there we go. And there's my frame. I can move my frame around. There's my image. If I want to scale this down, I can, but I won't do it. Right, if I wanted to. The next thing I'm going to do is go to my states and look at the rollover state. So right now this image, this frame that has an image as a fill, has the same 4 rollover states. So what I can do here is click this rollover state, go back to fill, click that, and instead of Scoop 1, I'll find an identical image that I created in Photoshop that I just changed the coloring, changed the hue a little bit, and open that. And now that changes the rollover and the mouse down. Okay. And the last thing to add interactivity would be to add my hyperlink, right? So let's say I want this button to go to my menu. Okay. Or maybe I had a page called flavors. I want that to go to my flavors page. So I'm going to click my menu or flavors. And now I'm ready to see what this happens. So when it's rolled off, it's pink. When you roll over it, it turns brown. And then when you click it, it goes to your menu page that I haven't created yet, but it's all working properly. So that's another way you can create images as kind of rollover. Here, it is just interactive. This also allows you to change the actual, what we call a rollover image. The last 2 things I wanted to show you in this tutorial were pinning your header. So let's go to your A master. You'll notice in my preview when I scroll, let's go to my home page, when I scroll down, my menu is lost when I scroll down. And for a lot of pages, you'll know that's typically the case. But let's say I wanted to actually keep my menu open and available to the user at any point should they need to go to another page. So let's go back to our master page with our menu and my logo on it. And Muse makes this really easy. you can go up to this thing called Pin. It has these little boxes up here. Go up to Pin. See if I can zoom in for you. And you're going to click the top box there. That's going to pin it so it's always at that location in your browser. I'm going to do the same thing with my little logo. And then I've also created a little white bar here. You can see it in my layers palette. This white bar is just an extra little white rectangle. I'm going to put it underneath everything. And this white rectangle is also going to be pinned. That way you can show or see all the pieces. It'll kind of block everything. I'll show you why in a second. So now everything's pinned to the top. So now when I go to my home where I have extra content and I scroll down, all those menu items will still be viewable. And you can see even when I roll down, it's got that little white bar that allows you to see these menu items behind it or on top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and flesh out the rest of this site. I think you have the key elements to build your site. You can go into each of individual pages. You could use your 3-column grid to create a text box, and then you could also create an image, perhaps, that scans the entire width. Right, so maybe we wanted to add another slideshow over this page, but this image now is going to span 2 columns rather than just 1. And your text will fill 1. And this is how you can make your grid modular so it doesn't look the same all the time, but it still has the same underlying structure and consistency.